Welcome back to Rising. Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
One of your favorite topics, aliens. So for all my people out there who feel like we might not be alone, yes, we're starting here. Former President Barack Obama confirmed the existence of extraterrestrial life in a recent No Lie episode with progressive podcaster Brian Tyler Cohen. Take a look.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
Look, like everyone else, I was taken aback, especially since there was no follow-up question asked. He just said he believed in aliens, and then after hours of our heads spinning, Barack Obama clarified his stance on Instagram since there was no follow-up question asked, and he wrote in part, quote, "I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's gotten attention, let me clarify. Statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good there's life out there." Okay, so he wasn't announcing little green men. He was referencing what the government has already acknowledged. Unidentified aerial phenomena exist. The Pentagon has released reports. NASA has held briefings. Real in this context, I guess, means unexplained. Even though that was a huge headline from this interview, there were some other parts of it that were less fun and more urgent, like the former president sounding less amused and more concerned about the state of our politics. He addressed the recent deployment of thousands of immigration agents to Minnesota, calling out what he described as, quote, rogue behavior. And he indirectly responded to a racist video posted earlier this month by President Trump that depicted him and the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, as apes. Here's what he said.
There's this sort of clown show that's happening in social media and on television. And what is true is that there doesn't seem to be any shame about this among people who used to feel like you had to have some sort of decorum and a sense of propriety and respect for the office, right? So that's been lost.
That's not partisan. That's about standards, about whether we still believe public office requires a baseline of dignity, which I do. And then he did something that ruffled feathers inside his own party. He talked about homelessness.
Morally, ethically speaking, it is an atrocity that in a country this wealthy, we have people just on the streets. And we should have we should insist on policies that recognize their full humanity.
But he didn't stop there.
But we should also recognize that the average person, doesn't want to have to navigate around a tent city in the middle of downtown.
That's the tension, compassion and practicality. He argued Democrats won't build support for temporary housing or services if the message is simply that it's not homeless people's fault and they should be able to do whatever they want. He called that a losing political strategy, and some heard it as a direct shot at Governor Gavin Newsom. So yes, this interview was about aliens, but it also was about accountability, about governing in reality, not ideology, about understanding that voters can care about human dignity and public order at the same time. So lots to talk about, Robbie. Let's start with the aliens.
I guess we'll get that out of the way.
Let's get it out the way.
I groaned when I saw this clip because I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about aliens.
I'm sorry, I got in your shot.
And what he said, all he said was, which we all...
He said, yes, they're real.
He didn't say anything about the aerial phenomenon, though. What he said in the tweet, which was very clarifying, and speaks to the fact that he is a savvy guy, no matter what you think of him. He's like, he just thinks it's overwhelmingly likely that somewhere out there in the universe, there is some form of life. It can't be that Earth is the only place where this happened, where this, life came to exist. This doesn't matter because space travel is so difficult and they're so far away and they're probably not existing at the same time as us. So practically it's the same thing as there being no aliens. He was not saying that he thinks the aerial phenomena is alien.
I'm sorry, are presidents saying, yes, they're real, so matter of fact, they're just not in Area 51? And you're acting like people are causing too much
He's not
ruckus?
saying they visited Earth. He's saying
he said, yes, they're real.
There's some bacteria on some moon somewhere. That doesn't mean there's intelligent life at the same time there's intelligent life on Earth. Intelligent life on Earth has only been here for, however many thousands or I don't what 60 million. Well, there's been 60 million years is the life of the planet. You get these things mixed up. What's the life of the planet? The life of the lifespan of actual life on the planet is a small window in terms of the sun's, like how much, the age of the universe. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I
There's
understand.
a small window for which we're here.
I understand.
And if that happens to correspond with life from another planet somewhere, that would be astonishingly unlikely. But it was funny, Brian Tyler Cohen. People were mad at him that he didn't ask a follow-up.
So much vitriol towards the guy. I'm like, man,
I'm not a big fan of his.
it was kind of crazy to not ask, if they're not in Area 51, what are you suggesting, or what does alien mean to you? Like, that was a good follow-up.
Obama explained it. Andre. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Talk about what we can talk about.
Look, how do I put this? I appreciate that, I was very opposed to Obama when he was president.
Really?
Well, of course, I totally disagree with his policies. He was, for the time period, extremely progressive and extremely left-leaning. He was temperamentally moderate he is moderate in the things that he says, not in the governance he does, but he is a intelligent thinker and a smart talking person. So was Romney when they ran it against each other. It was a high level of intellectual discussion in their debate.
Yes.
And do we miss that?
Yes.
So now when he talks about policy, he sounds very reasonable. And frankly, by the standards of where the Democratic Party has gone and the people actually running the cities, right, he is saying thoughtful things about homelessness and the trade-offs one should pursue that is not something that the mayor of Chicago or the mayor of New York or these far left people actually running these cities who are well to his left and govern that way. It's very different. So yes, it makes one almost missing Obama. Yeah, I feel it. But the way he governed was far left. So
I think that's why there's if you like his policies or not, like the respect.
We like listening to him talk.
Yeah, but respect shown to the office of presidency. He's showing and exemplifies that continually, even post-presidency. So do other presidents, like George W. Bush. I know, that was the biggest controversy, tan suit, I know. But when you look at the tan suit controversy versus the things that the president actively does every day, and I always bring this up over and over again, like the auto pen photo instead of President Biden, it's very childish and diminishing to an office that has prestige and years of legacy attached to it.
Biden diminished the office.
Okay, we're talking about Obama and Trump right now, right? And the juxtaposition between the two, correct? Okay, so I just feel like he reminds us that there is civility and can be civility. And I think that the words clown show were a great way to describe it, because when a president says, oh, I didn't notice that they made you look like an ape, even though that's racist, it's not my fault and can't even apologize. Well, it shows a lack of decorum and respect, and it just shows things that you would hope that you have in leadership. These are not partisan things. You hope that leaders can lead.
Senile and couldn't host cabinet meetings.
You want to talk about Biden?
This be awake
you want to talk about Biden all day.
That did something to undermine the office.
This interview was with Obama, and we're talking about the current President Trump. But you want to talk about history? Okay. We're not talking about why is Obama Biden. They're not.
Lens we can talk about.
Exactly, it's my lens. So let's talk about that, and then let's talk about the homelessness thing. I want to say that Gavin Newsom responded and was like, because all the headlines said broke ties with Gavin Newsom over this issue. And he's like, how did we break ties? We're on the same page. Like, Gavin Newsom's arguing that he never said anybody do anything in these tent cities. So why are people directing Obama's comments at him? He doesn't feel that way, even though I know LA has a particular problem with homelessness.
Huge problem, because you can't just, which Obama did concede, you can't just throw money at this problem. We've seen, you give money to these people who live in these tent cities, you can buy them all apartments. It's cheap. It's not that much money to give all the money to the people and have them have apartments. They don't stay in them because they're drug addicted and mentally ill, and they need to be out on the street where the drug dealers are. And so it's a mental illness and drug problem that must be fixed coercively by having people in facilities. And that it's not nice, because applying force people can get hurt, and it's ugly, and the liberals don't want to do it, Democrats don't want to do it. That's the problem. It's not lack of money. It can't be a housing first strategy. You need to address the mental illness and drug addiction.
It's just saying have nuance and layers to it. Like, make sure that we're leading, understanding people's humanity when we do make decisions. Whether we make too lenient of decisions, saying everyone should stay, we need to put everyone in a house. You're right, that has been ineffective in certain ways. But also throwing everyone in a mental institution is also probably not a full blanket
Not
strategy.
everyone,
will
but
work,
people who are violently mentally ill in the streets.
which is not a majority of them. Violent, mentally ill.
Of the people who live on the streets, it's
are mostly violently, mentally ill.
they're not necessarily violent, but they're very mentally ill and very drug addicted.
We'll keep talking about this.
Kristi Noem, next up, is getting some pushback after, I guess, suggesting her administration has to ensure that, quote, the right people are getting elected in November. Is that controversial? Stay with us.